Hey.
We can hear you, Elise.
We ready to roll, Jason?
I'll take town hall for 500.
Now live on Facebook. Take it away, Diana.
All righty, here we go. I welcome everybody to the Bodega Bay Community Town Hall, which is brought to you by the collaborative, the Bodega Bay Collaborative, which was established in 2016 to keep our local community engaged in opportunities and challenges impacting the Bodega Bay area. Before we start, I would like to personally thank our supervisor, Linda Hopkins, for joining us tonight. And additionally, I'm very grateful to Elise Van Dyne, the field representative for Supervisor Hopkins and the 5th District. And I also thank Elise because she's been terrific to work with during this. I'd like to give a very big thumbs up also to Jason Wilson, who is doing all the Zoom work for the meeting. He makes it all seem so easy, and I know it isn't. So let's get started with the meeting. Elise will introduce each of the county and state speakers who will give their presentations. There will be time after each for audience comments and questions. And Elise, you're up.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your putting together this opportunity for us, Diana, and to host us here at Bodega Bay. So I'm going to be emceeing the first part of the county, and then it will go back to the collective for all your speakers. First up is our esteemed Supervisor Hopkins.
Thank you so much, Elise, and thank you so much, Diana. I just really appreciate the work of all the wonderful nonprofits and organizations in Bodega Bay, always coming together in the pursuit of the greater good. I'm also going to make a quick apology. In addition to my neighbor's dog going nuts, I also have a Nubian goat that occasionally bellows outside the window. So if you hear something funny, it sort of sounds like a seagull's being strangled or something. I apologize in advance. So I'm going to give you a few very quick high-level updates and then pass it back to Elise to introduce some of the folks who will flesh out some of those topics more. I know we've got an action-packed agenda tonight, so I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. Number one, Meredith Pier. You may have noticed that, yes, we have succeeded with the demolition there. And now the next phase I'm actually really excited about. Believe it or not, we came in on time and under budget. And so we actually have some funds that are left over that we can utilize to work with the community to create some kind of public art there. Maybe it's going to be something that will inspire folks and kind of commemorate what used to exist. Maybe it's something that, looks more broadly at coastal issues, but we really want to work with the community on this project. And we've got Kristen Madsen up in a little bit just to tell you a little bit more about that project. I'd also like to update you on the Miller Farfan property, which I know I've updated you about in the past. On January 26th, the Board of Supervisors did grant additional settlement authority that we are hoping will allow us to move forward with, settling that issue and getting that removed. And then ultimately, there's actually a fairly complicated settlement agreement that had to be worked out with respect to the Tidelands lease and anything else. But just so you know, the good news is that means that hopefully that community blight will be cleaned up very soon. Also wanted to let you know with respect to roads planning. So we're actually looking at what will be the 2 biggest years for West County roads, I believe, in the history of West County roads. Because not only are we kind of investing more general fund dollars in roads maintenance than ever before, and we're finally getting our fair share in West County because we have more roads miles than any of the other supervisorial districts, we're also going to be getting a substantial chunk of change from the PG&E settlement funds. This will be focused on either storm damage roads or critical evacuation routes. And I want to recognize that we do have critical tsunami evacuation routes out along the coast. And I look forward to working with Transportation and Public Works to prioritize some of those roads. So, and yes, Bay Hill is still on the list for the completion of that project. We started earmarking some funds for that, but we're saving it up to try to get that all done at once. Very expensive because it's a full depth reclamation due to the state of the road. Also wanted to mention, and I know you'll be hearing from Bodega Bay Fire Protection District later on, but we continue to pursue creative funding opportunities through the county. I know you'll also be hearing about Measure B later on tonight, but I also want you to know that we are looking at under basically every nook and cranny to try to find some funds to support our fire services. We will be considering the possibility of a 0.5 cent sales tax at some point. that's really geared around fire risk reduction and fire services, not EMS, which is what Measure B is really the subject and the focus of. But I want you to know how committed I am to supporting your wonderful firefighters and paramedics out here in Bodega Bay. Finally, I am meeting with Senator McGuire this week, and top on my list of things to talk about are signage and ways to really look at reducing some of the impacts when the coast is overfull and beyond its carrying capacity. I'm really committed to looking at some kind of a solution like they found in Marin, where there actually are signs along 101 letting folks know when the beaches are full. And so I really want to get that both for the Sonoma County coast as well as the lower Russian River. And that is top on my advocacy agenda when I meet with Senator McGuire this week. I also want you to know that regional parks, and we might hear a little bit more about this from David Robinson later on, is also trying to coordinate and collaborate with state parks on safety signage. And I know this has been a real personal project for Assistant Fire Chief Steve Hertzberg and other members of the Bodega Bay Fire Protection District. So we are very committed to trying to increase awareness of coastal dangers in the hopes of decreasing the tragic deaths and fatalities that we have experienced along the Sonoma County coastline. So that is my rapid fire update. It's wonderful to see all of your shining faces, even if it's only on Zoom. I look forward to the time when we can actually get together in person there out along the coast, because I really actually miss those town hall meetings. Oh, and speaking of which, if you're over the age of 65, you are eligible for a vaccine right now. Also, if you are engaged in agriculture or in food provision, that includes restaurant workers. And West County Health Centers is probably the closest and best way for you to get that vaccine. So you can go ahead and check out the West County Health Centers website if you are able to sign up. We're having a current shortage, so I'm not sure if Jason was able to reopen up some of those first appointments, but if not now, then soon. So back to you, Elise.
Oh, what a lot of fantastic updates. We will have more detail of many of those things that Supervisor Hopkins brought up. So if you don't mind, I'm going to hold questions until the next speakers come through in order to be more efficient with our time. So first up today, I want to introduce Jeffrey Weiss. Jeffrey is the PIO. What is a PIO? It's a personal.
It's kind of a lofty term. I don't like it. It's called Public Information Officer. I don't know why I'm an officer. Almost everyone outranks me, but that's what they call it.
Jeffrey is with Caltrans. We've been working quite a bit on roads issues. Unfortunately, with big agencies, there's always a lot of time and money to cut through, but we have a good relationship and we're working on these things together. So Jeffrey, what's your update on any plans for Highway 1 coming up?
Let me share my screen so I can go into these. Now, let me not share it quite yet. Let me go over here. Hold on a second. All right.
While Jeffrey's looking for this, I just want to also let you know that I have a list that I went and did a drive with Patty. I've also driven around and gotten instruction from your Coast MAC representatives, and I have a list of roads issues along the Caltrans line that we've given to Sean Nozari, our district director, and also I have it on the agenda to talk about with Senator McGuire in that meeting with Supervisor Hopkins. So we'll be going at it with both barrels in that meeting.
All righty then. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, let me, where is Google? Hold on a second. How embarrassing for me. Okay. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what I've done is, I'll give you this link. I'll put it in the chat. And if you want to, you can follow along with me. And I apologize that I'm not. Okay, so what we had been talking about was that in Marin at Muir Beach, if I've got this correctly, they have signs, what we call CMS signs, which are changeable message signs, or sometimes called electronic message signs, where they can type in a message and let people know that Muir Woods is full. There's no more parking there, so that people can turn around and go somewhere else, or go to the Pelican Inn, whatever, have a cup of coffee or a beer. But we don't have that on the Sonoma coast. But one thing that's different about the Sonoma coast is that people tend to come from a number of routes, not just Caltrans highways like 116 or 1. There's a lot of county roads that cut across as well. So I think probably what we would need to start with, and I've talked to other people about this, would be to find out where the traffic is coming from. I wouldn't assume that it's all coming up Highway 1. Just anecdotally, I talked to a number of people and they said the traffic, people come from the Sacramento Valley a lot because it's the closest beach to that area. So people are coming from all over. So, and those signs that are installed at Muir Beach are installed by the Golden Gate. They're installed by a national park. And so there's a matter of cost as well that we'd be dealing with. So, I could go over, sort of what we had thought about was, can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is, let me expand a little bit. Here we go.
So are there red spots where you're thinking about signs?
Yes. Now these, as you can see, by looking at this map,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of space between the coast and the main freeway. So our thought is that we could put information on these changeable message signs along here,
Mm-hmm.
saying that the beach is crowded, that but these other routes, there's very numerous as far as how people would get to the beach. So this would probably be the first idea worth exploring, putting messages on these. And if we could find a way to pay for a sign on Route 1 in the Southern County, then we could do that too. Like I said, the one installed at Muir Beach is installed by permit by the state park. But let me go back to where I was. Say another issue that we have. We did I mention we might do we had done an origin destination study, probably more of an origin study. We might be able to determine where traffic was coming from, and we'd have a better idea on how to communicate with them. Another thing that we have, and I would just say that for local or something that we can help people with, is this quick map where you can sort of let this, maybe you could use Twitter or something to send this information out. You go like this, and then you fill this out, and you can see where traffic is bad. There's a closure up there. That's a project Caltrans has, heavy traffic in there. This is another tool that we can use, that you can use to allow people to know what traffic is like. You can also, Google has a traffic map that allows you to monitor congestion. That's another thing that we could do, sort of get that information out that way.
That's a helpful start. Do you, onto some of the other things, do you have any plans coming up for road repair, resurfacing, adding turn lanes, any, when I last spoke with Sean, he had said that you guys have 5 to 7 year plans coming up, and that's the way that Caltrans work is in these long-term plans. And we're just wondering, do you know of any that are going on at this point that we can expect to help the road conditions?
Yeah, I mean, there's an idea that if we have projects coming up, and I don't know all of them, the big one that's coming up is this one here.
Mm.
And let me sort of reduce my screen a little bit. Not too much. But we're going to pave between Brand Park Road and Rock Point Beach. So that's about almost a 7-mile stretch that we'll be paving. We won't be paving right in here because there's a project where we're gonna at Gleason Beach, where we're gonna realign the road because it's basically falling into the ocean. But all the rest of it will be paved, and we're gonna start that in August or September of this year. That's good news.
That is good news. That's very good news. I wonder, though, in August, what that will do to the already kind of crazy traffic in the summer.
Well, we'll be working at night.
Oh, okay.
As from 8 o'clock to 8 a.m. So we may catch a few of the surfers in the morning, but that's about it. Someone had mentioned a left turn pocket going into one of the state parks. So that's something we can look at. They're expensive, and you probably are waiting for me to say this, that money is tight. And the reason for that is the projects are competitive. So, you go around and other places, they want a project too. So we have to find money. And of course, because of that, we have criterion that projects have to meet. One thing working against this is that, the congestion seems to happen on the weekends. It's not a full-time congestion, but that doesn't mean we can't look at it and try and find out how we can solve it. Then, and we're willing to work with, I think to work on a left turn pocket, we want to talk to someone from the county and see if we can, like one of their engineers, and talk about what it would cost and find out how it would be built, because we're not sure. I wasn't even sure which park it was and what all would be involved in putting a left turn lane in there. I'm sure it would help, but
yeah. Okay. Great. Well, that's good news on multiple points. So we have some signage that we could use that's already in place. We already have a plan in place for repaving, which is excellent news, and we can work together in terms of left turns lanes and other possible projects moving forward. I'm sorry, we have so many speakers. We have to move quickly today. So just a quick glance. Jason, do we have any questions for this? For Jeffrey before we move on?
We currently don't have any hands raised. If you're an Zoom attendee, you can use the raise hand function if you have a question. If you're on your phone.
I just want to be sure too, as we're looking for questions, was there anything else that you really wanted to cover, Jeffrey, before we take questions?
No, that's it. But if you go to, I put that little link in there that goes to our website. And so people can go there and, look at the charts and things, and I may put some more information on it if that would help people. I can upload things to that site. And that way you know what you're dealing with. We have a lot of information that we can share.
Yeah, that is super helpful. I see that Ward Bowman has raised his hand. Do you have a question, Ward?
Yeah, I just typed it in as well. Is there any plans to put more signage on to encourage people to pull over when they collect the queue behind them?
When they collect?
A queue, like the slow guys are always in front of the traffic jams. And I think under California law, I think it's like 5 people you're supposed to pull over, but I often see that people just keep driving their RVs, for 30, 40 minutes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that might be something solved with turn pockets. Again, we'd have to explore that. I mean, I don't think people will, most of them are 2-lane roads, 1 lane in each direction. So they'd have to wait for that. So we probably have to add turn pockets. Other than that, it would be an enforcement issue. But the CHP, you know, it's hard to get people to pull over because you're stuck in the same queue with the RV. And if you're not right behind him, it's hard for you to pull someone over like that. So I think the answer would be probably provide more turnouts on the roads.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Kathy, we have time for one quick question.
Okay, so more turnouts would be great, but they would have to be no parking only, because what happens here is every tiny spot that could possibly use for parking is used. And we don't just have congestion on the weekends. If we have really good weather or it's people have time off, they come to the beach. So that's my comment.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you so much for your time, Jeffrey. I know it was great to meet you, and we'll be in further contact with the future, Kathy. Thank you so much. Next up on our agenda is our parks. So Mike Lair, you're not showing up on my screen, but I know you're here. There's Mike.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. And I think the couple topics that I have are I guess visitation traffic, and then the garbage. The visitation, kind of Jeffrey spoke to that a little bit about it, and that's hard for us to control. It really is a lot of people coming from Sacramento and Central Valley, and we saw that during the pandemic when we had the parks closed, and when we questioned people when they came out to the parks, that's where they were coming from. And with that said, is once they are committed for that drive, they're not going to typically turn around. They're going to, get to the beach. And so that's a tough one. We're talking with other folks on how we can do that. And there's been some good discussion with Caltrans, with regional parks, of using Twitter, the social media, used in Waze, MapQuest, Google Maps. So typically people navigate with their cars navigation. So if there's something that they put in the destination and it was on the Sonoma coast, that maybe they'd have an alert saying the parks were full, or parking lots full, or whatever is going on in the parks. That would be one way to do it. Twitter. Like I said, I've been working with both state and federal folks to see, kind of brainstorm what we could do. But it's really trying to get ahead of it and getting the folks that are on their way from a long distance to have an alternative place to go. So that's still a work in progress. It's human nature to get to the beach. They're beautiful places, and people want to enjoy them, and that's the good and bad of it. Along the trash lines, we're of course, we're going to be staffing up. This is, I think someone was talking today about just how many people were out there a couple of days ago, and I was out there today, and parking lots were 3/4 full, a lot of them. So we're seeing heavy use, creates more garbage, and we're limited staff right now because we're supposed to be on our slow season right now, but we're gearing up for our busy season, and we're actually going to start staffing folks, our maintenance aides who do the restroom cleaning and the garbage pickup. We're going to slide their shifts and have them start a little bit later so we can catch the morning, and then we'll have somebody that goes in and catch the afternoon folks, because we have the sunsetters. They like to come out and catch the sunset. So there's a big wave of people that come in, for that second wine and cheese and the sunset, and they're having a little dinner or whatever that is. So we are working on that. And I have talked with county parks about they're faced with the same thing we are, massive amounts of garbage, and maybe getting a dumpster somewhere that we could strategically locate so we could get to and be able to dump the trash and not have to go so far to move trash from the trash cans to the dumpsters. Because we have locations where we have the dumpsters, and they're usually back at home base. So we're driving the whole coastline with, you've probably seen the trucks with our flatbed trucks full of bags of garbage. So, we're working on that as well with our county partners, along with the aquatic side of things as well.
That's good to know, Mike. You know, I was talking with Terry, the district superintendent of parks, just before this call, and he was telling me that trash pickup is second only to personnel for state parks. So we really want to work to give you some assistance too. We're working with regional parks and Supervisor Hopkins and her team also have a meeting coming up with Supervisor Rodoni, am I saying that right? In Marin, to do an educational campaign along the coast. So telling people pack it in, pack it out, because we need to educate people as well as picking up so much. So thanks so much for your efforts on that. It's really welcome. Are there any questions for Mike before we go to county parks? Seeing no, oh, Shirley Hughes.
I thought I was gonna get lucky.
Shirley?
Am I unmuted? Okay,
Yes.
my point is that I pick up garbage at least twice a week along the coastline and mostly along the roads. And what I notice is that one of the biggest things that I'm picking up is little plastic condiment things for tourists that they get from the restaurants, and styrofoam things that they get from restaurants. I wish that they had some sort of a tax write-off or a discount or something to get people to use recyclable products or products that are not plastic like that, because people just throw them on the ground everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my point. Is there anything we can do?
That's an excellent point. Do you mind if I jump on that, Mike, or do you have something you want to say about that?
Well, no, I think, you know, talking with other folks too, that it's really going to take all of us getting together for the trash and just working with the locals and the restaurants and seeing ways that we can try to maybe reduce it. And but I would agree that, you know, people are getting their lunches or their dinners and coming out to the coast and having that. And you know, it's unfortunate some people just want to throw things out the window. Others could be just it gets blown away from them and it takes off. But I do think it's a good community effort to talk to everybody and try to get everybody engaged on this. You know, and real quick on that pack it in, pack it out. When we opened Pomo Canyon, you know, we had those budget cuts, and one of the ways we did it at Pomo Canyon, we quit giving water out there, and then we made it more environmental camping. We did the campaign with pack it in, pack it out, and it worked really well. It took the effort in the beginning to get people out there. We had the rangers and maintenance coming out with bags and give them the bags and just, you know, educate them on, you know, the pack it in, pack it out mentality. And so far, knock on wood, it's been working for us at Pomo Canyon Campground. So I think that's a good tactic for sure. I've seen success with us and Pomo Canyon. So just wanted to add that as well.
That's great. Yeah, and we need to do more outreach with businesses too in order to work on more recyclable and reclaimed things like that. So,
and that's the messaging they could share with it, you know, when they're getting their food as well. So, like I say, it's going to take everybody a little bit to help this, you know, get where we need to be.
And Supervisor Hopkins, you know, popped in on the chat to say that the Board of Supervisors is considering a local polystyrene ban this year. So that hopefully that will reduce some of the roadside trash, because polystyrene is very difficult to clean up from beaches because it breaks down to such small pieces. So we're coming at it from many different directions. So thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate your time.
Sure, thank you.
Next up, we have the manager of county parks, David Robinson, joining us. David's been working on a lot of great programs to help mitigate the tourism impact. Where are you?
You see me? I'm here.
There you are.
Can you hear me? All right. Thanks, Elise. Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins. Thanks, Superintendent Lair. That was great. Yeah, this is a whole new world, right? It's been very different out there in Bodega Bay since 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago. And the pandemic just exacerbated everything, right? So you had, what we call it is a weekday's like a weekend, a weekend's like a holiday. And that's what we're seeing. throughout the park system, but specifically out there on the coast and on the river. And Superintendent Lair had it spot on when he said, when people decide they're coming, they're coming. So you can tell them that, you know, we're closed. You can tell them there's other areas to go to, but they either don't believe you or they think that, you know, they can wait in line and they'll get a spot eventually. So what I'm really excited about is the partnerships that we have with state parks and working with Caltrans and our other partners out there to really address Bodega Bay as a whole. Bodega Bay is different than the other areas. It's very, very unique. It's got the small town feel, and it's a tourist destination spot with a ton of beautiful parks and access to beaches. And so, you know, really working holistically together as a Bodega Bay community on figuring out specifically trash and traffic is going to be really important. And we've started making those steps already. And I just want to go into just a little bit about what Regional Parks has done specifically over the past couple of years, just on the coast, and really even just starting last year. You probably noticed it. We increased our signage. Some of you might have seen that we rented a electronic sign at Highway 12 to update people about COVID restrictions. We put out mask dispensers for folks. So if you didn't have a mask, go into a restroom, you'd have a mask. One of the things we noticed too, if we don't have the restrooms open in these park facilities, state, regional, people have to go when they're going to go. And so we want to make sure we keep those facilities open so that they go in the right place. We put out education stations where we inform the public on safe practices, how to be a good neighbor. We increased our trash services. Superintendent Bertel's spot on. Our cost for trash last summer went up almost 40%, which is not insignificant when you're talking in the $400,000 and $500,000 range for trash countywide parks. Again, we increased our park ranger patrols. We closed parks. We restricted parks to walk-in only. We started doing Facebook and social media boosts to the greater Bay Area and Sacramento. So we paid extra to let people know, hey, it's going to be super hot tomorrow. If you're not there by 9 o'clock, pick something else to do. Try a river, try somewhere else. We did an outreach education campaign to our park members as well, trying to get them updated, involved, and educated. We reduced hours too. And then we tried doing Twitter updates. All our park rangers now have the handle Sonoma County Parks. And as soon as the parking lot fills at Doran or on the river or at West Side, we tweet out in real time, hey, we're closed. Try something else today. And sometimes that's as early as 9 o'clock. I know I went out there with my family a couple months ago when there was actually good surf and it was, I think, 70 degrees at the coast. And Doran was closed by 9:30. And luckily there was some turnover and we were able to get in, but it's really impacted out there. So along with all the things we did last year, we're going to do some other things this year. We're going to have a coastal patrol with lifeguards. So patrolling our county parks, they'll be able to educate and tell folks, you know, how to be good neighbors and how to recycle. We're going to get more trash cans, right? We're getting more dumpsters because we have to. We're going to try recycling. So we've had pushback on recycling. We have a couple of volunteers right now that are actually going through our dumpsters and pulling out cans so that we are doing the right thing on the coast. Again, we're going to increase staff again. I've told our crew this isn't the year to reduce staffing. We need all the help we can get. And we're considering doing a single-use plastic education campaign as well. That's more focused on the river with inflatables, but I think it lends credence out on the coast as well. Again, we're going to introduce more park ranger patrols and be very strategic about where we are and what we're doing and how we're patrolling, pulling folks from the North Coast down to the South Coast where it's more impacted. And one thing I'm really excited about that we started in December is a regional parks climate conscious team. So we've got, we're mirroring the RCPA's 4 strategic areas of climate change and mobilization, their 2020 mobilization plan that I believe comes to the board in the next month. And we're looking at all the areas that we can help impact the change and be conscious about our decisions, whether that's switching to, we're trying actually out 5 different brands of doggy doo-doo containers that or bags that are compostable or paper. They're all compostable, so they're non-plastic. So we're trying to get those off the beaches and out of our parks as well. And I think the big one, like I said at the beginning, was we're just excited to work with the stakeholders and whether the collaboration is that group or the Chamber of Commerce, I know Superintendent Lair and I are going to get back together and have a discussion about some potential areas that we all can partner, whether that's group cleanups after a busy weekend where Parks provides the dumpsters and the litter gators and the trash bags, or just even, the protect our parks messaging, the pack it in, pack it out with the restaurants and having a whole, that education. I was really glad to hear that, Elise, that's coming from the 5th district as well, that the pack it in, pack it out will be moving forward. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to do. We'll be doing everything we did last year with the exception of closing parks. That didn't work. Restricting parks, that didn't work either. And reducing hours just made a headache in town, we know. And so we're willing to try many different things, and we're absolutely open to your input and the public's input to try and mitigate these factors. I'm open for any questions.
Wow, it's dizzying all that you're doing, David. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? I don't see any hands raised yet.
We do have one question in the Q&A, and it's from Billy Faulkner.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, a lot of garbage is being left in the parking lot off Highway 1 at the entrance to Bird Walk. Can we get a garbage can there?
Yes.
Great. That was easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm waiting for something else. C, you had a question?
Yeah, it would be great to have more. You were talking about increasing staff and more patrolling. Where we're getting a lot of impact and not enough patrolling are Pinnacle and Shorttail Gulch trails. And you do have a trash can at the top of Shorttail, but there's really Pinnacle, there's a garbage can inside the bathroom that I don't think people know is there. And I know you have the trouble of vacation folks throwing their bags in, but you can always get the trash cans with the small little holes that you lock the lid. But I walk those trails every day and bring up bags and bags of garbage. And so it'd be great. The sign at the bottom of Shorttail Gulch has fallen over. The big tsunami one and the one that warns about the riptides, that one, the big wooden one, that one's laying on the ground and has been for a few weeks. So it would be great to see, since there's been a big push to kind of promote those trails as different places to go besides Dorn Beach, it'd be nice to see more ranger patrols there as well.
Absolutely. Sue, thank you so much for all your work out there. We know you're literally picking up trash on a daily basis. And just to reiterate, so that was getting some more trash cans at Shorttail. And then thank you for the update on the signage. We'll try and get that up shortly.
Great. Thank you so much, David. We really appreciate it. And also just to let you know, I've been working with Recology and getting some of those trash cans that have recycle, compost, whatever. So we'll be in touch about that. Seeing no further hands, we will move on. I always love getting to talk about art. Kristen Madsen is going to talk about the project coming up at Meredith Wharf. Kristen, can you take it away?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Elise. I appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, Creative Sonoma is an agency of county government. We're about 6 years old. We are housed in the Economic Development Board, and we were established to support and advance the creative sector of Sonoma County, and also to ensure that we are getting art and creativity into the life of our communities. And this project is actually an opportunity to do both of those things. So I want to say thanks to the folks at General Services who've been involved in managing the demolition of the wharf for thinking about art, and definitely to Supervisor Hopkins and all of her team also thinking about it, both of whom have co-conspired to come up with the budget that will be put together for us to create a process. Now I'm going to shift over to what our role is in this. So for Creative Sonoma, to create a process by which the selection of an artist will be done and the management of getting that together. And that's really the very most important part. I know the art is really very, very important, but the part that we're actually in control of at the highest level is the process. So putting together how this is going to work with clarity and with good definition, and that we make everybody aware of on the front end, is the best thing that we can do, the best investment we can make in getting the best results. artwork that comes out on the back side of that. And here's why I'm going to say that to you. This is a speech that should be given every time any public art project comes to be, which is no matter what the artwork is, some people are going to be crazy about it and some people are not. That is just the nature of art. We're going to hope that it's more people on the former and less people on the latter in a project like this. But that's why the process, and I'm really stressing, is really important, because that's the part that is constant. That's the part that can be managed to on a fair and equitable basis. And that's the part where we get to give feedback until we let the artist fly free and come up with what that project might be. And if it sounds like I'm calibrating expectations, I am. That's exactly what this is about. And I just want to make sure we all know, we all put it out there. And I'll say one more thing about that and then stop. But I think everybody can think about an example of a spectacular piece of public art that was completely poo-pooed at the beginning and that people really didn't like, and that has now become iconic and sometimes a symbol of a community's tourism and the city, the St. Louis Arts, the Sydney Opera House. Those were projects that were despised when they were first created, and now no one can think of those communities without them. So we're not going to be on that scale with this project for Meredith Force, but we are definitely going to try to do something really wonderful and thoughtful in this community. So a couple of details on that, and I share this with you to give you the details on it, but also to be thinking about it in terms of artists that you know, that you want to make sure you point to Creative Sonoma so that they're going to participate. We are going to have up and available for folks to respond an RFQ, request for qualifications, from artists for this project. Our target date is March 3rd. Certainly during the first week of March and hopefully on that Wednesday, but you can start to tell people to go to that our site, which is creativesonoma.org as of March 3rd, and they'll have all the guidelines there and all the specifications and the entire process that people can look at and see, and then ask us any questions they want to as they're going through that process. All of our contact information is on that website. We've already had some good feedback as we've developed this from many of you who have already been thinking about it and talking about it formally or informally with Supervisor Hopkins' office and also the team at General Services. So one of the pieces that Supervisor Hopkins referred to that we really picked up for this project, even though this isn't a giant budget project, it'll probably be in the neighborhood of about a $15,000 commission, which in the scheme of things, for a piece that's going to have some kind of lasting capacity there against all the elements and the artist's time, is not a huge commission. We still wanted to build into it time for the artist to do some community engagement. And that's the part I think Supervisor Hopkins was talking to. It always is best if an artist actually gets the chance to talk to some people and to listen to some people in the community in which this art is going to reside for whatever its lifespan is going to be. So that's definitely built in and will be one of the actual eligibility criteria or the criteria on which we gauge the project. How well does the artist understand the concept and what ideas do they have about how they are going to do that in the community for this project? It'll be multi-phase in terms of the process for reviewing. There will be community representation, community meaning Bodega Bay community representation in this process. So again, that's another way for us to interject something into the process that makes it feel like this is coming for this community specifically, and that there is a voice in that process. And I think, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to really say right now. There's, like I said, there will be, specs on what we're going to be asking for from the artists as we get going, and those are going to be online when we put this all up, and what we'll want them to submit and how that will happen. The timeline, we're taking our lead from General Services in terms of we believe most of the demolition is done. I believe there's a few studies left to be done, but then dependent on what the final selection is that is made, we'll talk about how long it might take to install that and put that up. So I can't really speak to timeline at this point, but hopefully we'll know within a couple of months how long that's going to go. So I'll say again, creativesonoma.org. For anybody that's interested in information on this. I actually scrolled through the participants list and I see a few artists on this list. Would love to have you yourselves submit if you feel appropriate, or get this word out to other folks to submit. And we'll be looking for some really great recommendations and suggestions from our own artistic community to see what we can put out on the floor for the pier. I'm not sure. I hear both. I hope I am not misstating when I use either pier or wharf interchangeably. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Kristen. I think I failed to state in introducing you, because I'm so used to talking to you myself, that Kristen is the wonderful director of Creative Sonoma. So, and we are lucky to have you. Are there any, I don't see any questions yet. No, thank you for giving us that overview. We're really, it's a wonderful thing to have that pier cleaned up, and it's going to be great to see this art project take shape. Thank you so much for your time, Kristen. Really
You are welcome.
Okay, I have a short report. Transportation and Public Works, TPW, couldn't make it tonight, but they did give me a bit of information, some of which Linda already touched on. In 2021, they are going to be repaving the 1 mile portion of Bay Hill Road. It's a full deck reclamation from Highway 1 in Bodega Bay. They've recently added no parking zones on Mockingbird Road to Pinnacle Gulch Trail. They partnered with the HOA in order to accomplish that. More excitingly, David may want to touch on this as well. They're working with parks on the area next to the Bodega Bay Trail. There's going to be parks being built between the Bird Walk and Lucas Wharfs, and that's part of the long-term walking trail that we've presented on a few times at this point. This brings us to wrap up the county portion of this meeting. So if there are no further questions, I will turn it over to Diana, and she has a full slate of speakers and topics as well. Is there anything else or any other questions coming up? Well, it's our pleasure to be here with you, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Elise. It was wonderful what you've put together there for us, and we all appreciate it. It's been very interesting and informative. We like that. So now we will get some local updates from our collaborative group, and we're going to start with Kathy Beck, who, along with Brooks Rooney, is our Coastal MAC rep. And she's going to give us an update on what CMAC is working on. Before Kathy starts, I'd also like to thank her for her help with putting this meeting together. She was helpful to me, and I appreciate it, Kathy. You're up, Kathy.
You're welcome. So our last meeting was on January 20th, and we do have a vacancy for an alternate to represent Bodega Bay on the CMAC. We meet every other month, and the alternates are allowed to be involved with ad hoc committees, and it might involve 3 to 4 hours a month of your time. So if you're interested, contact Elise or Brooks or I. We'd welcome you aboard. Scott Farmer from Timber Cove was reelected as chair. We did meet the new Highway Patrol Commander, Randy England, who's from Fort Bragg originally. And we also had a really good discussion with Mike Lair about all the things he just talked about. And I'm happy to see that we're making progress. And also we were working with various agencies for no parking signs on Highway 1. We're asking for signage on the Coastal Prairie Trail for no e-bikes. They're starting to use e-bikes on the Coastal Prairie Trail. And most recently, people are starting to ride their horses on it. And I haven't done any research, but I don't think they're allowed. So that's to be continued. From the PG&E settlement funds, there will be grant money available possibly in March for vegetation management programs. And we've also been working on getting better signage for the coast, as we've discussed already, like sneaker waves, no parking available, etc. Looking at various options, including using fire departments that have electronic signs, such as the Bodega. And I think there's a couple of them towards Petaluma too. Also, Salt Point Timber Cove is awaiting activation of a new cell tower in the area because there's a 30-mile dead zone on the coast up there. Pole Mountain Lookout is actively pursuing donations for upgrades. And our next meeting is March 17th, and we always welcome agenda topics. That's it.
Are there any questions for Kathy? Well, Kathy, nothing. It was a great report. You've updated us a lot, and I can tell from just speaking with you personally and from your report tonight, CMAC has been doing a great job, and I appreciate it. We all appreciate it, and thank you for being part of it and working with it. Next, we have information from the Bodega Bay Fire Department Assistant Chief Steve Herzberg and Sonoma County Fire Chief Mark Hine, who are going to give us information on both Measure B and the consolidation effort. So take it away, guys.
So Mark, do you want to speak? I'll defer.
Well, now one of you has to.
Leaderless group exercise. Okay, good evening, everybody. I can certainly discuss consolidation efforts. As I'm sure you know, and for those that may not know, Sonoma County Fire District was formed out in 2019 out of the consolidation of 5 different fire districts that all came together: Windsor, Rincon Valley, Mountain, Bennett Valley. And most recently, this past July, the Russian River Fire District came on board, and this coming July, the Forestville Fire District will be on board. While we have the name Sonoma County in our organizational title, we're actually an independent fire district, very much like the Bodega Bay Fire District. So Chief Herzberg, Chief Grinnell, myself, and Supervisor Hopkins have been working on this fire service consolidation for a very long time. Some of the real big highlights and why we feel so passionate about trying to move this forward is really for all of you out on the coast. You have some very unique challenges being, way out on the west coast of the county, only having a couple of ways really in and out, and certainly the incredible impacts of tourism on your community out there. And it is really causing a significant challenge for the Bodega Bay Fire District, which I know Steve wants to chat about. So consolidation, what's going to really come of that is that because we have a larger, well-established and funded living within our means fire district with the Sonoma County Fire District, we can add resources to Bodega Bay once they are on board with our agency. We'll put another paramedic on their fire engine out there, so you'll have additional paramedic coverage. Right now, you have a big challenge out there because when your ambulance is transporting a patient to a hospital, they're going all the way into Santa Rosa to one of the hospitals there. That turnaround time, particularly during times when your roads are so impacted, you can be left without paramedic coverage out on the coast there for hours and hours every day. So we want to solve that problem, and the consolidation will bring additional staffing. It'll also bring additional depth in the form of all the services that we can bring to the table that Bodega Bay is so challenged by. But I do want to share something with all of you because the last couple of years of really working closely with Sean and with Steve and with Supervisor Hopkins on this, it's really enlightened me to what your 2 fire chiefs out there have been able to accomplish for all of you. Keep in mind that 60% of the territory of the Bodega Bay Fire District is not taxable by them. They can't levy taxes on it because it's local, state, and federal parks and federal and state lands, and one government agency can't tax another. So they're living off 30% of the revenue compared to most other fire districts, which of course have better taxation capabilities. So what they've been able to accomplish by providing advanced life support paramedic service, the rescue services, the surf rescue that they perform, and their boat operations is really nothing short of remarkable. I'm sort of in awe of what they've been able to accomplish. So the next logical step is to bring these 2 great organizations together so that you have a much stronger service out on the coast out there. I'll turn it over to Steve in just a second, but I do want to thank Supervisor Hopkins. I'm glad she's here tonight. We have spent a lot of time working together to try to look at consolidation and how we can support that with the funding needs that are present to be able to have to pull that off. And in fact, Steve and Linda and I met for several hours just a couple of days ago trying to really work through this problem as well. And Steve will chat a little bit more about that, and then a little bit more about why I think as a fire chief, and I'm sure Chief Grinnell and Chief Herzberg will agree, that Measure B's passage is absolutely critical to ensuring that we have ongoing paramedic service out there. So Steve, I think I'll turn it over to you here, and then I can help fill in any blanks for us.
Thanks, Chief. It's always great to be able to talk to my own community. I live here, I serve here. I know how much you all support us. I'm coming to you at a time of great challenge for our fire district. I think those of you who have been close to the district have heard this before. We seem to always be able to pay our bills and to always put people out on the rigs and provide the service. But I can tell you right now that that ability to serve this community has been heavily stressed, and we are very challenged. I was going to start giving you numbers, but I think the people from the parks and the people who know here understand, this is a really small village supporting a safety net for a very dangerous and beautiful coast that is used predominantly by other people. 80% of our ambulance transports are for non-taxpayers, 80%. And when that ambulance is gone, there is no ambulance here to take care of you. So the other part of that is, how do we support that ambulance and our fire EMS service? We pay a $524 parcel tax. Universally, it's our small village full of parcel taxpayers that are providing the safety net for the entire coast, and most of that property is property we cannot tax. And most of the people who use it are tourists or visitors. They are not people who pay the cost of readiness for that service. I want to make really clear, we provide a really good service, and we're pleased to do it. We talk about universal healthcare. Our ambulance is universal healthcare. We take everybody in need and we take care of them. We do not ask them where they live. We do not ask them if they can pay. When we ask them about pre-existing conditions, it's only to make sure we treat them properly and for no other reason. So where are we today? Where we are today is that if we are not consolidated, we are likely to face layoffs in the immediate future. And if we face layoffs, that means we will not be able to serve this mission. We have spent down our reserves to keep personnel. All of our books are transparent. What I'd like you to do is go up to our website, www.bbfpd.org. Take a look. We were analyzed by the county's financial analyst. We are a tight ship. We do not waste money. They found nothing wrong with what we were doing. What they basically said is that we face a very difficult situation. Very small tax base. Our fire district is 27 square miles. We serve an area of 211 square miles with our paramedic ambulance. We're first out to 211 square miles. Of the 27 square mile fire district, only 9 square miles, 1/3, is fully taxable. And that's where the parcel taxpayers paying the highest parcel tax in the state of California are supporting the visitors who flock here. And Kathy, you're so right. There is no season anymore. There is no weekend crowd. There's no weekend crush. One of the speakers said that the parks were 2/3 full today. Of course they are. It was a beautiful day. So, Measure B is an effort to help us consolidate with Sonoma County Fire. And it's really an important effort because with that consolidation, we will bring the 2 paramedic ambulances serving West County together under one roof and bring the 2 organizations together under one roof. If you were to ask me what the biggest threat to Bodega Bay Fire is, I can tell you very quickly. We've lost 11 paramedics in 8 years. And right now we have a paramedic opening and no one is applying. And the reason that people are not applying is that the word is out that we cannot offer people stable, sustainable jobs. We can't promise someone that when you come to work for us and we train you and you fall in love with this community, that there's going to be a job for you in a year or 2 years. And my biggest fear for Bodega Bay Fire is not that we can't run our mission, but that we won't be able to replace the people who are leaving. The people who are leaving come to us, some of them with tears in their eyes. They're leaving because they're young, they want to start families, they want to have homes, and they want to know that they'll have a job or 2 or 3 years. And for the last few years, we've been going on, funding for another year, funding for another year. All of you who live in Bodega Bay know we went into the consolidation process with LAFCO. We were put in Sonoma County Fire District's sphere of influence. What that means is that LAFCO decided that we were a great match. It was a good match from a service basis. We went through the protest period. The people in Bodega Bay agreed. We got to the final LAFCO hearing and we were dropped. And the reason we were dropped is that there is a financial gap that the county needs to help us close. Because if we don't close that gap, Sonoma County Fire District cannot consolidate us. So I want to talk a bit about Measure B. I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote. Neither Chief Hine nor I can tell people how to vote, but I want to tell you what the impact it will have is. It will facilitate the consolidation of our agency. Once we are consolidated, we will stabilize our workforce and in fact add one more paramedic to that workforce, which I think is very serious. Chief Hine and Chief Grinnell and I have talked. We're trying very hard to add a third ambulance to West County so that when one ambulance goes out, be it the Rivers ambulance or ours, we've got a backup ambulance here. So we never run into a situation where we're transporting a non-resident and a resident needs an ambulance and that ambulance is not here. The ambulance you're paying for is not here. So, what does consolidation do for us? Chief Hine, if you could pop up that slide for you. One of the things that's not been talked about in this Measure B, if Measure B is passed and we are in fact consolidated with Sonoma County Fire District, the highest parcel tax in the state will go down. So let's just look at the impact that will have. Right now, a 2,000 square foot residence in Bodega Bay pays a parcel tax of $524. The Sonoma County Fire District's parcel tax is $184. That's a saving to every homeowner in Bodega Bay of about 65%. And I want to make clear that when we are consolidated, we go to their parcel tax, not ours. Let's look at a vacation rental. Much has been made about the impact on vacation rentals of Measure B. A 2,000 square foot vacation rental in Bodega Bay pays $1,024 in parcel tax. That same vacation rental, once we're consolidated, would pay $184. So that is a savings of 82%. And finally, we took a construct hotel. We just made up a hotel, but it's pretty close to one of the hotels we have in Bodega Bay. We figured, let's find a hotel with 86 rooms, with the square footage of a room, 200 square feet, that is sitting on 3 parcels of land. Currently, that parcel tax is $16,899. It will go down to $5,252. That's a savings of 69%. So we can pull the slide. Thanks, Chief. I don't come to you, we've really never come to you and said, look, this is all about the parcel tax. This is all about savings. We've come to you and said, we're not going to survive and be able to provide the safety net that you need and you deserve. But Measure B will provide that safety net while also taking this really heavy tax burden that we've been paying to support that safety net for the entire coast. The county parks, the state parks, the visitors who come, be they staying in a hotel or not. The day use visitors use our services just as much as anyone else does, and they're sent here by the tourism industry to enjoy the coast. So I can't tell you how to vote on Measure B. All I can tell you is the consequence of it passing and the consequence if it does not pass. I know you love us and you want us to survive. And, should this not pass, we're going to have to go to a plan B, because I know Supervisor Hopkins and Chief Hine join me in a strong commitment to get Bodega Bay consolidated with Sonoma County Fire District to strengthen the emergency services for all of West County. So with that, I'll throw it back for questions. And there are none.
How can there not be?
Actually, we have a couple in the Q&A. The first is from Laurie Arnold. How is Bodega Bay Fire affected by the change in Measure B that would now have funds go to education in Sonoma County and not just the fire district?
We are sharing the revenue for Measure B. The funding gap that we need to make up is close to $2.8, $2.9 million. A big part of that funding gap, by the way, is the money that will be lost when we lower our parcel tax. That's about $800,000 that Sonoma County Fire will not get because they're dropping us down. It's estimated that Measure B will raise $2.7 million, and we're getting half of that. So Measure B does take us partially toward consolidation, and we've been working with Supervisor Hopkins to close that gap. I hope that answers the question.
The next one is from an anonymous attendee, and the question is, did I understand that the county is going to have a shortfall if we consolidate? Should we continue to pay the higher tax to ensure the service continues?
Okay, so it's not that the county has a shortfall. It's that Sonoma County Fire District does. Because by law, the Bodega Bay parcel taxpayers will have their parcel taxes lowered by the way I showed the chart. I know there are people here who would say, let's just get this consolidation done. We'll still pay the $524. I would pay the $524 just to protect the safety services that we're providing. But by law, that can't be done.
Okay. Next question is from Lyra.
There were questions. Okay.
Please excuse my ignorance on this. With the savings shown in the spreadsheet, can you please explain where the quote needed extra funds for this merger?
Sure. Okay, so here's where the needed extra funds are. I'll give them to you roughly. The savings are actually a loss. They're not a savings. So what happens is right now, when we move over to Sonoma County Fire, they have to cover, I'll give you all the areas they have to cover, but we're bringing to them $800,000 less than we currently have in our budget. I hope that makes sense to you. You know, we collect this parcel tax based at 524, that goes into our budget. When it goes down to 184, we lose about $800,000. That has to be made up somewhere else. We have to add a fifth paramedic position to our, we have to add a third paramedic to our engine. We are violating the NFPA standards. We were at one time a 3-person fire district. Now we are 4. Chief Hine is going to move us up to 5 so that we comply with NFPA guidelines. That cost is probably about $500,000. We have equipment costs. We also have a salary gap cost. And part of that is one of the reasons we are losing our paramedics and have lost so many is that they are taking jobs in Sonoma County at either 2/3 more to almost 50% to 2/3 more salary where they're going. And the young people who are so dedicated to serving you out here, they just hit a point in life where they want to get married, they want to have families, they want to have a better standard of living. We are the lowest paid fire district in the county providing paramedic service. Right now, there are not enough paramedics nationally. Firefighter paramedics are hard to hire. Right now in this county, Sonoma County Fire District, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, and Marin County are all hiring firefighter paramedics. And we're losing people to all those departments. Our people have stayed because they believe we're going to be consolidated. If that belief is dashed, I don't think we'll be able to fill those positions. And that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that we simply will lose personnel, not be able to hire personnel, and then not be able to serve our community.
Okay, we got 3 more questions we'll take for this. Anonymous attendee again, what specifically would happen in the short term and long term if Measure P does not pass in terms of services?
I think, we'll have to ask other people. I can tell you, we are hoping that Measure B passes. If it does not pass, we need a contribution from the county in some way so that we can consolidate with Sonoma County Fire and stabilize. We are looking at a potential July layoff of staff. I mean, it's just that cold and that harsh. That if we can't stabilize staff and we lose some of the guarantees that we've had, we're going to be looking at laying off people. And I honestly think that, again, if we start laying off people, we're not going to be able to hire. I mean, right now, in part because of this campaign, we've had to be honest with everybody about where we are right now. And the word is out, and not a lot of people want to apply here now until they make sure we're going to be stable and sustainable.
Okay, again, anonymous attendee, and I don't know if you'll be able to address this. Are you concerned that Sonoma will have a 16% TOT versus the Marin and Mendocino at 10%? Will that affect the occupational rate for the hotels?
You know, I'm really the wrong person to ask about that, but I do have an opinion about it. And my opinion is that I find it more threatening to the tourism industry not to have a paramedic, EMS, fire district that's able to serve them and take care of them and keep them safe on the coast. Also, you know, we all live here, right? So, you know, we've all seen what has gone on in the pandemic. We have seen completely filled hotels at a time when they were under orders not to be taking people in because they were supposed to be shut down. People come to the coast. Now, this is my opinion. They come to the coast. The destination is the ocean. The destination is the climate. The destination is the beauty and the enjoyment. And I think they'll still keep coming. If the pandemic didn't keep them out, I have a hard time believing that you know, a small increase in TOT. I mean, the other part of it is all this TOT money is going to advertise to drive people out here. If it's okay to charge people for the advertising to drive them here, why is it not okay to pay for the safety net that keeps them safe when they're here? If it's okay to charge them for people who clean up the rooms, why is it not okay to charge them for the people who, when they have a cardiac arrest in the middle of those hotel rooms, why is it not okay to charge for the safety net that protects them? Yeah, again, I'm not the right person. I think Supervisor Hopkins is probably the best person.
Steve, can I just add a quick comment?
Sure.
I think, you know, one way that I look at Measure B is Bodega Bay community in particular has a very unique threat. And while tourism is a huge boon to the local economy, and I certainly always want to support that, it is a threat when you're the fire chief of these organizations trying to ensure that you can provide ample service. Because unlike some other businesses perhaps in the community, we don't swell the workforce based on the swell of tourism coming out to the coast today because it was a nice day. So the staff that's on duty today is the same staff that was on duty when it was raining and nobody was coming out to the coast. So I look at Measure B as a unique solution to a very unique problem. And sometimes as leaders, we have to get real unique with how we address certain challenges with very unique solutions. So, you know, consolidation is a very deep topic to try to understand. We could spend a whole day probably just on that piece of it. But we've seen huge success in the fire service consolidations that have already occurred across the county. You know, the fire departments that were on the verge of failing are now all operating in the plus and being self-sustaining once for many, many years. And the challenges that I know you all know too well, the challenges that we are facing during fire seasons is incredible. I've never seen anything in it in the 40 years I've been in the fire service. So I think Measure B is a unique solution to a very unique challenge.
And if I could just interject, I wanted to correct the question, which I believe suggested that Marin had a 10% TOT rate. West Marin actually has a 14% transient occupancy tax rate after passing a similar measure 2 years ago, which specifically targeted funding fire and emergency services as a result of the tourism burden carried by West Marin in particular.
Thank you, Supervisor. We have one last question on this from Vicky Valine. Where is that, quote, lost money going to come from?
Well, Vicky, I'm not sure exactly the nature of your question, but if you're referring to the financial gap that exists for the consolidation to be completed, we're working super closely. I think Linda said it best early on. We're literally turning over every rock we can to try to look at alternative ways of trying to bridge that gap so that we can complete this consolidation process. We are all committed to it, super committed to it. And in fact, we just spent several hours the other day talking about different options that are available to both the county and to the fire agencies that are involved. So I hope, Linda, that was your question.
We actually have one more question pop in, and it's from Laurie Arnold. And this will be the last one for this topic. There seems to be a pressing need for more funds for the Bodega Bay Fire District. Why are the schools able to take money through Measure B when the fire district needs it?
I'm happy to take that question. It's important to recognize that the district that is being created by the West County TOT district extends beyond the boundaries of Bodega Bay and actually beyond the service boundaries of the Bodega Bay Fire Protection District. So actually by looking at a larger area in which we have, a tremendous amount of broad reaching tourism impacts, it actually increases the amount of money that's generated by the measure. So if we were to just look at Bodega Bay, or even sort of Bodega Bay plus the EMS area that is served by Bodega Bay, which we can't actually draw a line there because we don't actually have formal districts that that sort of have an existing line within the Register of Voters systems, it actually would have been generating less than half of what will be generated, even with the 50% split, right? So that 1.35 million is actually more than twice what would have been generated just by looking at a smaller district area. So it becomes really critically important to make sure that there are benefits to the entire district area. And what West Marin did in order to ensure this was that they split the funds 50-50%. Half went to fire and then half went to affordable housing. Here in West County, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to the development of affordable housing. We've got the local coastal plan and the coastal zone, which has very, very limited development potential. We have a lot of high fire severity zones, and then we have a lot of floodplain in the lower Russian River. So it becomes difficult when you think about an ongoing revenue source specifically to affordable housing. We just don't have a lot of space left to develop out in West County. And our general plan actually has designs to keep it that way. We don't want it to be overly populated because of the lack of infrastructure. So in conversations with the community, they identified the fact that the lack of affordable housing, brought on in part by the proliferation of vacation rentals, has caused a decline in our enrollment system. We've seen that at the Bodega Bay school there, we've seen it at the West County high schools. And so by creating an ongoing revenue stream to support broadly education. So for the first couple of years, it's focusing on the unification efforts and supporting programs in schools while a unification study goes forward for the Sonoma County Office of Education. After those couple of years, it actually really opens up to support not only any school within the district boundary, including Bodega Bay, could apply for funds to support their students, but also workforce development, career technical education. Heck, we could actually support Bodega Bay Fire Protection District or other districts training firefighters, right? Sort of teaching, paramedic skills and rescue skills and things like that. So it actually does provide an ongoing, not just strictly defined to schools, educational revenue into the future for West County, which will support workforce development as well.
Thank you, Supervisor. Diana?
Okay, I think that was a really terrific conversation, and I thank both Chief Herzberger and Chief Hind for the information on both of those subjects. Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins, for your input on it. I love these town hall meetings. I think this is really good. Okay, now we're going back to C. Higgins, who is the Executive Director of Coastwalk, a member of the Greater Farallone's National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council, and she is going to give us current information regarding the local coastal plan and vacation rentals. So C, take it away.
Okay. My screen is locked. There we go. Okay, so I'll make this brief. I'm just providing an update first on the local coastal plan. In case you haven't sort of been a part of any of these presentations in the past, just a brief background, the local coastal plan is the controlling land use document for the Sonoma coast. And right now it's in the process of being updated and revised and Permit Sonoma has been charged with that task. And so the LCP controls land use document for all development for 55 miles of the Sonoma coastal zone. And you can kind of see a map there in that image. And it's supposed to ensure equitable public access to the coast and also protection of critical coastal resources. So the news is that right now, Permit Sonoma is running a series of workshops, and these workshops are kind of arose from the ones that were previously held. There were specific topics that people were very interested in participating and making sure that there was good policy put into the LCP update. We were supposed to have our first one yesterday. There were technical difficulties, so that one has been postponed. But tomorrow they have one, tomorrow the 24th, on vacation rentals. There'll be one on climate change adaptation, which includes sea level rise and bluff erosion. There'll be one on housing, then wildfire and emergency services. And then the last one is ESHA, mapping and natural resources. And ESHA is for environmentally sensitive habitat area. And then the pesticide regulations on the coast, that one will be rescheduled and we'll get an announcement. And so Permit Sonoma will be sending out Zoom links and call-in information before each workshop. But in order to stay updated on everything, and I think I put it into the chat, but just in case I didn't, I will put that direct link to get to Permit Sonoma, the local coastal program update. But this is sort of the page you land on, and there's, you can look at the calendar, and that calendar will tell you the series of workshops and when they are. Then you can also just see a whole copy of the draft to review that. There's the email contact. And then also, I highly, over in the right-hand corner, if you go ahead and click that link and sign up for the updates, you will get all the updates on the workshops coming up. So that's sort of what's going on right now with the local coastal plan. And part of one of the areas that will be looked at in our land use element of the local coastal plan, we'll be looking at short-term rentals and reasonable regulations around short-term rentals. And the reason why we don't currently have that, there are currently in the inland parts of Sonoma County, there are some ordinances that regulate vacation rentals or short-term rentals, but it is only through the local coastal plan, because in the coastal zone, we're governed by the Coastal Act. And so that is only through that local coastal plan that we would get regulations around short-term rentals. And I think it's really important for people to understand that the commission, the California Coastal Commission, which has the final certification of our local coastal plan, first it goes to our Planning Commission for a vote, then it's in front of our Board of Supervisors, and then finally in front of the California Coastal Commission. So there's still lots of opportunities for people to be engaged in this process, but the Coastal Commission does not approve bans of vacation rentals because they consider them a visitor serving amenity. But they do approve of reasonable regulations around how vacation rentals operate. And so you can see on the slide, there's been quite a few, both in highly populated areas and also more rural coastlines like ours, where there have been ordinances approved in the local coastal plan that had reasonable regulations around vacation rentals. And these are just some examples, limiting the total number, setting out little exclusion zones, making sure that there was 24-hour management, that there were requirements about on-site parking, garbage and noise, signage requirements, of course, payment of the TOT tax, right? If we have a measure that's going to be getting revenue from vacation rentals, we want to make sure that they are all registered with the county so that they're actually paying that proper tax and supporting our fire services department. And then, different enforcement protocols. So, the LCP is a big document, and it might be hard to review the whole thing, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't want to provide input to Permit Sonoma. So if you're interested in seeing vacation rentals, if you're ordinances here on the coast, if you're interested in seeing, more effort to deal with our marine debris issue, it's a really good idea to go ahead and sign up for those updates, to attend these workshops, and to also to email your comments to Permit Sonoma, because this is going to be our controlling document for the next 20, 30 years on what happens out here on the coast. So just encouraging everyone to get involved. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for C?
Don't have any hand raised? No.
All righty. Well, that was very good. Thank you, C. We appreciate your information. Our next presenter is going to be Brooks Rooney, who is our other CMAC rep. And Brooks is going to be speaking on the residential parking permit issue. It's you, Brooks.
Good. Thanks, Diana. traffic and parking has continually been brought up by the community residents, creating a need to do some research in that area. The Coastal MAC has appointed an ad hoc committee to look into residential parking permits and other parking issues on the Sonoma coast. The committee has designed a monkey survey to analyze the needs and more specifically, the areas where parking and traffic needs to be addressed. The survey was launched on January 12th, and to date, we have received over 300 responses. The survey is still open and will conclude on March 1st. The results of the survey and the committee's recommendations will be presented at the next MAC meeting, which will be March 17th at 5:30. Members of the committee will try to separate out responses according to the specific neighborhoods, passing those along to people who have indicated interest in working on the local parking issues. If you haven't taken the parking survey, the last day will be February 28th, as it will be closed on March 1st, so that make sure that your voice is heard on these issues. I will put the website address in the chat in case you still would like to take the survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooks. Does anybody have questions for Brooks on the residential parking issue? My goodness, I expected some. Okay, fine, then we will move on. We'll move on now to, is that me? Okay, Patty Chinocchio is a board member of both CERT and Waves of Compassion Foundation, and she's going to tell us something about both of the organizations. Patty.
Thank you, Diana. So I have the pleasure of talking about two amazing nonprofits in Bodega Bay. The first one is Bodega Bay CERT, and Bodega Bay CERT was developed to help Bodega Bay prepare for a disaster. Of course, we live on the San Andreas Fault, so there's a possibility that we might have one. So we have disaster sheds across Bodega Bay that have supplies in them, and the communities that they are in are run by each of the areas. And we have an amazing new president of Bodega Bay CERT, Dr. George Flores. And George has brought the medical aspect to Bodega Bay CERT. And he was critical in bringing to Bodega Bay a flu vaccine clinic here. We inoculated over 80 people that are, vulnerable to the flu and wouldn't have received a flu shot if they hadn't offered it here. He's currently been working with multiple agencies to bring the COVID vaccine clinic here to Bodega Bay, and also with West County Community Services to make that happen. This past year, we also did a fundraising. We put pandemic supplies in each of the disaster sheds, masks, all the standard face shields, gloves, things like that. And then we did a fundraiser. Our year-end fundraiser was able to purchase a whiteboard, or assist in purchasing a whiteboard that works with Bodega Bay Fire in a disaster. So, it's been a busy group, and we welcome George as our new president and look forward to a lot of great events and happenings this year. The next area that I was going to talk about is Waves of Compassion Foundation. And Waves of Compassion serves the local community and the coastal community around Bodega Bay. We have a food pantry on the first and third Wednesday, and we provide amazing, healthy, and delicious food. It's free. We don't ask questions other than how much food do you need? And we also want to make sure that we thank all of our volunteers that run that pantry. We serve on average of 80 families. We also deliver food to several families that are unable to come to the pantry. They could be sick, they could not have transportation. Whatever the case is, we will deliver. We also have been helping families that have members who have been ill with COVID. We provide financial assistance. If you know of anybody who, not just COVID, but if they might be sick, they can't pay their utility or their rent, we have some forms. You can either complete it on their behalf or they can complete it and send it in to us. And this would not be possible, any of the things that Waves of Compassion does, without our amazing community that donates to us. And everything that we do is because of them. So we don't want to forget that. We also help the preschool in providing subsidy for tuition. So, you know, it's an amazing organization. And does anybody have any questions? No?
We do have one question in the Q&A, but I'm not certain that it is applicable to the current topic, but I'll go ahead and read it in case someone wants to address it. It's from an anonymous attendee. Are people taking into account the impact that will take place when Harbor View has finished construction?
Ooh. That is not a subject that has come up at this meeting. Does anybody want to try on that one? Or we could put it aside till the next meeting when we have more information. Anyone?
Well, I would, can I just say something?
Of course.
You talk about impacts. What kind of impact? That's sort of like an open question. There's all kinds of impacts that, and I think probably a lot of them have already been taken care of as far as water usage, traffic, and that. It would be nice if it was a little bit more quantified. My 2 cents.
Okay. Okay, then I'm going to move on, and we're going to speak now with Amanda Bryant, who's the president of the local Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to give us information on the local tourism impact. Amanda?
Thank you. Thank you for your attention to issues that we've asked about for years. In October of 2017, the Chamber spoke at the Board of Supervisors meeting requesting monetary and physical assistance with the burden of our growing tourist population. We expressed that we were over our carrying capacity during the summer. We asked that a percentage of the TFP dollars be returned to our community based on the revenue we bring into the county, as well as on our ever-growing transient population, not based on the roughly 1,000 full-time residents. We asked for assistance in the form of additional funding for our fire department and assistance with our traffic, roads, rubbish, and public restrooms. Fast forward to March of 2020, when COVID first shut down the state. People were encouraged to visit their local parks and beaches by our government with no foresight into the impact on the residents of Bodega Bay and the surrounding area. In the first weekend alone, thousands of cars full of non-masked people descended on the beaches and inundated our tiny essential businesses, all without the availability of public restrooms and sanitation tools necessary to help keep both them and the local community safe from vector transfer. The Chamber once again reached out to our government begging for help, and the response was, "What do you want me to do? Outdoor activity is one of the things we're still allowed to do." While the Chamber of Commerce values everyone's right to nature, as well as the income that tourists bring to our community, we don't want this at the detriment of our friends and neighbors. During COVID, there has been no season, as we already discussed tonight, but instead we've had a steady stream of tourists who arrive after long drives and are looking for restrooms, which are closed in businesses and are insufficient in the parks. Tourists have been urinating and defecating on the beaches and our parking lots, and many times right in public as an angry protest. Our little businesses have been screamed at, cussed at, and literally left with human waste to clean up because the tourists are angry. The tourists are angry because The businesses enforce the mask rule, the businesses enforce the capacity rule, and the tourists have been standing in long lines for service, waiting in long lines of traffic, and they can't use the restroom. The situation is not working for the tourists or for the locals. This past weekend, which was neither a holiday nor high season, traffic was backed up 20 plus vehicles on East Shore Road just trying to get back on Highway 1. The weekend before, which combined Valentine's and President's Days, was even worse. We need to have our roads fixed. We need public restrooms and hand washing facilities. We need traffic control, and we need a proportional amount of the existing TOT revenue returned to Bodega Bay and the surrounding area. What we've received is further decaying roads, increased traffic, increased trash and pollution, unhappy tourists because we're over the carrying capacity, and a defunded visitor center, which is the only official place that tourists can get information, use the restroom, and which has answered nonstop phone calls during all the emergencies that we have experienced over the last 3 years. We understand that our small hamlet has been discovered, and we begrudge no one wanting to experience the jewel that's the Sonoma coast. We simply request once again that we receive assistance in caring for those who visit to preserve this natural jewel and the health of all those who live or visit here. We require return of funding to its source. Bodega Bay has been overused and underserviced. Thank you.
Well stated, Amanda. Does anybody have questions for Amanda?
We have Steve Bertobal. He has his hands up in the attendees.
Okay.
Thank you. Other places deal with overcrowding issues by requiring permits that people have to get in advance of visiting. I think that needs to be explored here. And I think we need to take a close look at how it works in other places. There are various ways that it can be done. There are some examples to follow. But I really think we need to face up to the fact that it doesn't help anyone to drive for 4 hours to get to the coast and find that there's no place to park, no place to go to the bathroom, and basically ruins their day because they've spent most of it waiting in a line of cars. This problem has been solved elsewhere, and I think we should begin to find a solution here. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Are there any other questions for Amanda?
C, you have your hand up.
First of all, thank you, Amanda. That was very well stated. And I have a live update for everybody. I had just put that slide up about the vacation rental ordinance. Vacation rentals workshop would be tomorrow night from 6 to 7. I just got an email that has been postponed. They don't have a new date for it. So the first workshop is going to be this Friday from 6 to 7, and that's on climate change. So both the pesticide use and the vacation rental workshops have both been canceled this week.
Oh.
That's a live update. So the first one is this Friday.
And the new notification will come out when they've been rescheduled.
Yes, but I encourage everybody to sign up so that you get those emails when there's a sudden change, just like there was.
Just like today. Love those town halls for that information. Okay, great. Thank you, Amanda. And next up is Diana Bundy. And I'm going to tell you about the things that are and are not currently happening at the community center. So my husband and I are the current stewards of the Bodega Bay Community Center. And this is something we've been doing for over 12 years now, which really shocked me when I started to put those numbers together this afternoon. I thought that was pretty interesting. Michael takes very good care of the center, the building and the grounds, with his weed eating and mowing and maintenance, and has over the years been working on updating the building and the building interior and exterior. The major project for this year, Michael's going to replace the bathroom flooring, and boy, does it need it. Due to the COVID issue, the center has had no classes or events in the building, but the yoga classes do continue virtually each week. When things are safe again, we do expect to have those classes back, and it's my understanding they may possibly even be adding to them. So that would be great. We'll also be rescheduling our events and presentations once it's safe to do so. Now, this one you're going to like. One of our very popular events, the outdoor annual Shred-a-thon, is scheduled again this year, our 5th year, for June 12th. So it's time to start collecting all those old papers we all gather, and let's get them cut up and out of our way. Our farmers market is coming. The 2021 season will begin again on Memorial Day weekend and is going to run through the month of October. Most of our regular vendors are coming back, and we do have some few new vendors coming this year. Hopefully we'll be able to have live music this year, which certainly makes the market a little bit more lively, doesn't it? The market is very popular with vendors and the folks who count on it for the weekly shopping. And Michael and I really enjoy getting out there every Sunday and seeing people. And this year it's going to be better because maybe we'll be able to do it without masks at some point, and we'll be able to really know who you are again. So that's it. If there's any questions on the community center, I'm happy to hear them. Nothing, hey? Okay, also part of the community center is the community garden. And now I'm going to turn this over to Robin Rutterow, who is the manager of the garden, and she's going to tell us how her garden grows. So Robin.
Thank you, Diane. I'm really looking forward to that shred-a-thon. I've already started getting my things organized, and I'm looking forward to the farmers market. And I really love hanging out in the garden during the farmers market, saying hello to the folks coming by. We talk about what grows best in their neighborhood and what we grow in our garden. I really hope that you all will stop by and visit on Sundays during the farmers market, or come on in if you're just out taking a walk. Come on in and cruise through the garden, check it out. It's spring now. It's time to start getting those garden boxes full of veggies and flowers. I have a few available if anybody is interested in renting one of the garden boxes in the community garden. There's signs out in front of the garden with my email address, so please reach out to me. I do have a couple of boxes available. Also, I wanted to speak just briefly about the Historical Society. We have in our town a wonderful little Rancho Bodega Historical Society. You can check out our website is ranchobodega.org. That's ranchobodega.org, where we have lots of interesting stories and pictures and old newsletters. And we also have a link there to become a member of the Historical Society, so you can help us continue to tell our important stories. We have fabulous archives going back decades of interesting things, and it's always a challenge to decide what to pick out of those files to put in our upcoming newsletter. We send out a newsletter once a quarter. It's always full of really interesting tidbits about the history of Bodega Bay and Rancho Bodega. We have a cute little building up at the back of the elementary school here in Bodega Bay. The school's been kind enough to let us have our space there. It's been there about 16 years, and it's a little bit worse for the wear. We're just getting some bids in, but it looks like we're going to have some pretty major work done, at least replacing the siding of this small building. in that regard, we are planning a super fun, interesting fundraiser. And I'm not going to tell you what it is now. We're going to be rolling that out in the next month or so. And y'all are going to be really excited about that. And I'll be excited to share it with you. So keep your eyes open for the Rancho Bodega Historical Society fundraiser to fix up our little building that houses our archives and where we have our annual open house when we're not in the midst of a pandemic. Thanks to Jason for putting our website in the chat, ranchobodega.org. Check us out. Please become a member. We'd love to have you. Thank you, Diana.
Oh, thank you. Any questions for Robin on either the garden or the Historical Society? Okay, then we'll move right on to Jim Moore, who is the president, has been for quite a while, of the Grange, and he's going to give us information on the recent repairs, the quest for the commercial kitchen, and other Grange news. Take it away, Jim.
Thanks, Diana. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Grange is the big building across from Pelican Plaza. We're a community service organization. During the 2017 Tubbs fire, we supported evacuees from the Santa Rosa area with housing, and we cooked food for evacuees at the Grange and all along the coast. But on the second day of the evacuation, we were shut down by county health because we are not a commercial kitchen. And so since that time, we've been embarking on achieving commercial kitchen status. And in 2018, we paid a restaurant consultant to develop a plan that we submitted to the county last year, and it was approved by county health in October. So we have a complete set of plans that will, renovate the entire kitchen so that it's certified as commercial kitchen. I'd like to thank Linda Hopkins for her support in this project with some TOT funds in 2019 and also a permit fee waiver for that commercial kitchen application. And this is a project that's pretty extensive. It'll probably be over $150,000. We've raised more than half of that so far. And just this month, we've identified a general contractor for the project, and they're beginning to prepare to do the plumbing and electrical infrastructure that's going to be needed. The building is 50 to 60 years old, so there's a lot of work that'll have to go into it before we can even get to the things like ranges and hoods. Anyone interested in supporting this project can do so via our website, bodegabaygrange.org. And if you've been driven by the Grange, you may have noticed that we completely replaced the siding on the south side of the building. This is the same contractor that we'll be using for the commercial kitchen. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Doesn't look like you have any questions. I think you're doing a great job over there, Jim. I watched the remodeling on the side of the building there. Well, the repair, I guess, and that's a lot of work. You do a great job over there. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Tony, you're next. Tony Anello is going to give us information on the fishing community and what's going on there. So Tony.
Well, as you know, we were delayed for a number of circumstances this year. One of them was the whale problem that we're all encountering, which is delayed the season tremendously. Then we ran into a price negotiation problem, and that was rectified. Then we moved on to trying to get the public aware of what's going on and how the whale information is really inaccurate. What we're trying to do, the association and a number of private citizens are putting together a video to where we can show that the information should be put out there in the proper format, to where we can get the backing of the public that it's on the other side, that it's overboard. So what we're trying to do is get that in place. And we got a number of associations contributing to the production end of it. As far as the season's going, it's real poor. That's why the price of crab is went up considerably because of the lack of crab that we're catching. Right now, the average is anywhere from 1 to 3 crabs per trap.
Oh my.
And yeah, and the beta trap is about $3.50. So a lot of the guys are stacking out and calling it a season now. We're kind of hanging on with my family that we need to get enough crab for our business, but it's pretty tough. So that's the reason why the crab price is so high right now, that it's not very good. That's about all that's going on now. Other than that, there's the other fishery that is called the black cod fishery. And we're just hoping for a better salmon season coming up in May, most likely. That's what's going on in Bodega Bay. Remember that Bodega Bay, its background was basically a fishing community. And we're seeing fishermen basically going by the wayside because the restrictions and the 4 seasons, it's not showing a real good picture for the future. There's a lot of families that have been in the business for years, are retiring and selling their boats, or just giving it up, period. But we're just hoping for the best for next season, and we'll see what comes down. That's all about I can report at this time.
Thanks, Tony. And it is unfortunate what's going on with the season for the fishermen. We wish you all the best. Okay, we're going to move on now. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, we got one question in the attendees. It's, from a phone number 984346.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Actually, it's John Nora Doolittle and Diana. Great meeting. Learned a lot. But I have a question for Jim Moore. Jim, are you in waves at Compassion kind of at cross purposes, or do you kind of complement each other?
Oh, we complement each other very much. It's a pretty seamless organization. They rent the Grange they rent space at the Grange to conduct their food pantries, and it really doesn't have to do anything with our emergency response. What we're getting the commercial kitchen ready for is emergency responses. And also as an incubator, if there's someone in the community who wants to make jam or something like that on a commercial basis, they can do that. But we are not involved in the food pantry directly at all.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Hey, Tony, one more comment to you. We've seen this coming, and I certainly don't have an answer. I know what you're going through, a lot of pain. My heart's out to you, buddy. But you see all these families leaving and no one's taking their place. And I don't know what the answer is.
Well, the answer would be to really get the public aware on what's causing this problem. And, we are basically stewards of the ocean. We're not rapers of the ocean. We would like to work with this whale group and make sure that we have a compromise in place that we can all live together with. Losing these early part of the seasons for the last 2 years is devastating. Devastating because the first part of the season is always the most lucrative part. Right now, when they open it up to the later part of the season, the crabs right now are either off the bite or they're basically looking for mates at this time, and that they're not looking to eat. So that's what the demise is right now for us. It's really the tough has to survive this business right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Is that it, guys? John? Okay, go ahead.
We got one more comment from Richard Ogg.
Go
I
for it, Dick.
think, can you hear me okay? Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you, Richard.
Let me be sure. Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to make a real quick comment, complimenting, what Tony is saying. One of the things that I really feel, and I'm involved with a number of these different groups and a number of different ways to try and innovate and mitigate these, primarily the issues that we're seeing with, whale interaction. And I just would like the public to know how much work the fishermen are doing to really, really remove the opportunity for any interaction. I mean, we spent a tremendous amount of time and money to remove the lost crab gear that's there. We're looking at ways to find the gear when it's lost in a number of different ways. We're looking at minimizing, injury to the animals. We certainly care about every single bit of this, and the impact that it has on us as fishermen is astronomical. I mean, you are not seeing the young fishermen able to continue this incredible business that we have, and we're here to supply a sustainable organic product to you, the public. That's what we want to do. So I just wanted to bring that up to you and make sure that it's, really understood that we're trying our best to do everything we can. And this population is just, the population of the ESA listed whales is just going through the roof. They're doing, unbelievably well. So I think we're doing our job, and I think we're doing the best we can to try and mitigate these issues. So thank you for letting me comment. I just wanted to throw that in there real quickly.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Dick. We appreciate that information, and the fishermen are doing a good job on this. If there are no more questions, we're going to move on right now, and we'll go to Lori Schmidt, who's going to give us information on the Bodega Bay School. Go ahead, Lori.
Anna. So those of you who are not familiar with our school, Bodega Bay School is a pre-K to 5th grade elementary with 2 multi-grade classrooms. We are a Marin County school in Sonoma County and part of the Shoreline Unified School District. Bodega Bay School reopened for in-person learning on January 20th. So far, so good. We currently have 22 students enrolled. 18 are in person and 4 remain in distance learning. Our enrollment of 22 is probably half of what it was about 10 years ago. And in an effort to increase enrollment, we opened a preschool on site in 2016. We have currently 3 students enrolled there, but the enrollment varies year to year. And last year we had 11, and 8 of which went on to kindergarten this year. So it's done its job so far, and we're really pleased to have it. We also offer a after-school program that is free to families. It's not currently active due to COVID restrictions, but we hope to reopen that program this coming fall if things go well. I'd also like to announce that our newest school board trustee, Dr. George Flores, who is a great addition to our school board. We welcome him, and his input is very valuable. Our school has a lovely garden, and we have a master gardener, Robin Rudero, who just spoke about our community garden. And she works with our students in teaching them how to garden. And students recently dug up some potatoes and Brussels sprouts, and in preparation for Miss Robbins' next adventure, which I'm not sure what she has up her sleeve, but we're looking forward to it because it's a lot of fun for the kids. On an ending note, we have a Superintendent Bob Raines, who is retiring this coming June, and our high school principal, Mr. Adam Jennings, will be taking over as superintendent come July 1st. And that's all I have for you.
Are there any questions on the school?
I just wanted to append Lori's comments. The next project in the school garden is planting bodega red potatoes.
Oh, yay.
Bring the history full circle with gardening. Thanks,
Good deal.
Robin.
All righty. Well, I think that is it for all of our speakers tonight. We thank everybody who participated. Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins, for being with us. Thank you, Elise, for your help. And Jason, thank you very much for all of your Zooming. It's been terrific. We appreciate all of the speakers, the collaborative for helping with the meeting, and the local folks who had comments and suggestions. All of your participation gives us more information for further discussion and future town hall meetings, which we will look forward to having. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you at the next town hall.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Diana.